final section on this. So succession. So here we have Vishal passing away whilst resident in California and retaining his Indian citizenship. Basis of application of California succession law. How does it actually kick in? Is it citizenship, residence, domicile, situs? How does it work? Is there forced heir rights under California law? Which succession law will apply to land located in California if Vishal dies without a valid will? So without any valid will, how will it apply to the land in California? And then likewise, when it comes to which of the succession law will apply where it shares and investments located in California, but Vishal dies without a valid will, and then the tax implications. So I'd probably invite Ivan to run us through briefly how this will play out.
Sure. So if you pass away domiciled in California without a will, then California's intestacy statute will apply. Right. Typically, that just means your community property goes to your spouse, and your separate property may go to your spouse and your children. If you don't have any spouse and children, then it goes to your parents. If you don't have any parents, then it goes to your siblings.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
And if you're not otherwise domiciled in California and you die without a will, then California's intestacy statutes will only apply to California situated assets, so meaning California real estate. California does not have forced heir rights. California respects the free disposition of assets. Having said that, because there's community property, you have to be mindful that not all assets under your name that's titled to you is for you to dispose. So for example, if the house that's titled under one spouse's name is in fact community property, that spouse can't actually dispose of the entirety of the house on his or her will. You can only do half of the house.
Right. Okay. And then the tax implications, as we mentioned before.
Sure. So what's important to keep in mind is, so California does not have an inheritance tax or estate tax. It used to have an inheritance tax, no longer. So if you pass away in California, there's no state estate tax. Having said that, if you pass away in other states, for example, New York, you will be hit with a state tax. Another tax implication will be property tax, for just in particular with the California real estate. California state counties impose generally about 1% property tax annually on the purchase price of the property. In California, receiving a property by bequest, by inheritance, does not sort of re-trigger the property tax assessment. So the property tax is going to be based on the purchase price rather than the fair market value upon receipt. But that's just California. And it's absolutely important to keep in mind that in other states it will vary. The base is the property tax and the base of the estate tax. Right. And in most states, you can avoid both of these problems by owning it through a structure, by owning real estate through a non-US company.
Okay, and just I think very quickly on the DIFC, although this is an interesting one, Diana, because here we're saying, will the DIFC trust law provide protection against a California community property claim? So this is not divorce or anything like that. This is looking at, obviously California confers community property within the relationship between what was Jenny and Vishal. In this case, we're looking at Jenny effectively making a claim against the trust for community property. How will that work if it's a DIFC trust? Will that be an acceptable claim? Sorry, Diana, you've got mute on still. Diana, yeah.
Yeah, this is the the confusing thing about speaking when you are on mute. Yeah. Well, with the DIFC trust law, we'll have to look at Article 14, which is titled Limitations in Foreign Law. And if we look at Article 14, it actually has all the non-voidables of a trust in DIFC, keeping it protected. However, when we look at sub-article 3, that would say, notwithstanding this article, this is when the court determines that at the time when the property was transferred to a trust, a settlor was insolvent or intended to defraud any creditor. And this is where the creditor here in this instance is the wife, according to the order that she would get from California. She would become, according to her claim, part of this trust.
Right, okay, okay. And then I guess briefly, just from the India perspective, which succession law would apply to land located in India if Vishal dies with a valid will? Is that going to be India or US? And then which succession law will apply to shares and investments located in India if Vishal dies without a will? So this is, so Shreya, we're looking at the usual scenario here where we have a will that's been executed in let's say the US, and then one where Vishal passes away without having any wills at all. How will the estate in India pass?
So thanks, Zach. So the assumption here is that Vishal is domiciled in the US. So starting with that, immovable property would be governed by the law applicable to the situs. So if immovable property is in India, then Indian succession law would apply. And this would apply irrespective of whether there's a will or whether there's intestate succession. So for example, if there's forced heirship applicable under the relevant personal law, then the immovable property would be subject to that. But shares and investments, since Vishal is a non-domiciled individual under the current example, should not be covered by Indian law because India would follow the approach that the law of domicile should govern it.
Right. And then the tax implications, there's not going to be anything at the moment because we don't have. Right, correct. Okay. All right, so finally, I think on the UK side of this, which succession law will apply to land located in the UK if Vishal dies without a valid will? Well, in this case, if we're looking from a California perspective, it's going to be land located in the UK. From a US perspective, it will be UK law that will cover that if there's no valid will, because it's going to be a situs-driven aspect with succession law. Will apply to shares and investment located in the UK if Vishal dies without a valid will. That will be US, so it will be US intestacy laws that will apply. And would Jenny's California community property rights be recognized in the UK? Yes, the UK would take cognizance of the matrimonial domicile, and if that provides for community property, then the UK would likewise take that into consideration. From a tax perspective, Vishal will have made a transfer. The UK and the US do have a double tax treaty on IHT, but it wouldn't be applicable here because California doesn't have that concept at the moment. And so it will be down to the whole issue of the values and where the property is going to determine whether or not there's an inheritance tax exposure from the UK perspective.